Deleted Session, April 15th, 1970, Wednesday. Good evening. Now, a few notes, not pertaining to the book. Rupert's poetry this evening did represent a breakthrough of thoughts, both in the ideas presented and in the poetry, writing itself. The feeling of ease and release is a magic quality here, for health can come as naturally and easily. You know that physical symptoms are the materialization in the body of inner dis-ease. They are apparent and easily recognized. Now, not writing poetry was also a symptom of inner disease, not so readily recognized as such. While the intuitional abilities first appeared in poetry, and while the poetry in one way was a channel into other areas, the poetry was not meant to be shut off because new areas were opened. Any work blockages are also symptoms. Seldom, therefore, do physical symptoms appear alone. They are usually studied almost in isolation. But wherever they appear, their counterparts will be found to one extent or another, in all the activities in which a personality is involved. It is only when these less visible, less apparent symptoms are ignored, when the causes for them are not sought or found, that physical symptoms show themselves. The non-physical symptoms will also appear in various guises, often symbolically within the dream state long before any physical symptoms appear. Behind any kind of symptom, regardless of its nature or the specific problem, there is usually a blocking off of spontaneity that is caused by fear. Either the individual no longer tracks the purpose toward which his energy is being expended, or perhaps worse, he feels that there is no reason, or that he has no purpose, and does not know in which direction to turn his energy. In Rupert's case, therefore, the distrust of spontaneity was indeed reflected in all areas of his life, particularly in spontaneous activities in both physical and creative planes. The sexual portion of his being also reflected the blockage in spontaneity. No problem, therefore, will be expressed in one way only. You are highly creative creatures. As the joy of life is reflected in all of your acts, affecting your work, bodies, environment, and the people you meet, so your problems are also faithfully reflected in all of these areas. Sitting down at the desk to write poetry, the act and intention automatically reminds Rupert of all the times that he has written poetry before, and primes the pump, so to speak. When this is done, as it was this evening, easily, getting up and down from the floor does the same thing physically, reminding the body and the mind of successful performances in the past. With each success, the failures fade away. The same applies to running. Rupert does not need his conscious mind to perform as a guardian. It is indeed the spontaneous self, as he is now realizing, who is the guardian. I will have more to say for him to read, but I suggest a short break. Some of this material will be quite pertinent, generally speaking. Now, tell him to leave his body alone with his conscious mind in the same way that he leaves a point alone with his conscious mind when it is forming. To think of his body as a point. Give us a moment. It is not now so much a matter of relaxing as going joyfully along with. Now, This is what I have been after. The position of the arms has symbolically represented the degree of resistance to spontaneity. At his worst, the arms would be like this, you see, as if to hold back. Ralph said, yes. Ralph noted, as Seth, Jane held out her arms with them bent at about right angles. They said, as they have dropped it down, they represent the dropping of resistance, and the strength returns to them. They were not at all strong, but weak to an extreme at their worst, because they were denying the source of strength. I have told him that concentration on his work will dissipate the rest of his symptoms, but he adopted a too conscious deliberation here. He should write his book the same way that he writes his poetry, not demand of himself, but simply and quietly and joyfully expect. He learned, or relearned, something quite important this evening with the poetry. The feeling of spontaneity and creativity, and will be able to apply some of this now to the physical condition. A more playful attitude should be adopted when he gets up and down from the floor, and in the running. Have him see himself in the floor, for example, and get there without too much concentration upon the method or the muscles used, as this will take care of itself. Tell him also to trust his feelings in regard to Mary Sharp or anyone else, even when they are contradictory. That is quite natural. Contradictory feelings can also be expressed through the body. Tell him, remind him. Tell him also to shake his arms downward from both the elbow and the shoulder, and in a playful manner, as if he were a rag doll perhaps. His idea about the morning symptoms was correct. Knowing this will minimize them. The depressions have virtually disappeared. Several symptoms in both the hands and the feet have also disappeared within the last 3 weeks. The Friday syndrome is just about entirely gone. So again, do not concentrate upon the symptoms that remain. They will vanish as well. He has actually been trying too hard on the dream book, his mental set. The spontaneous attitude of a joyful endeavor will release him here. His attitude has been, I have to start my dream book. Tell him that his dream book will start itself if he leaves himself alone. The attitude has impeded his dream experience also. Tell him that he produces books as naturally as a tree produces leaves. He does not have to try so hard then. When he lets himself alone, this happens naturally. Now, this may sound redundant, but he has been listening to me rather well of late, and I know that there is significance even behind the obvious words I speak. Some of all the difficulty in the past few years has been the result simply of Rupert's coming to maturity, and the episode could have been far worse. His system now has more than stabilized, and is now in the process of complete recovery. Therefore, I want him to understand how best to help himself alone by letting himself alone. Again, I make the recommendations about the bedroom. Ralph noted, the next day, Jane changed the bed around to north-south. They said, when he allows himself spontaneity, his true vitality returns, and the feeling of joy, active joy, that he has so often missed. My word to him now, then, for the 100th time, but now he will take it, is to allow himself spontaneity on a daily basis. The feeling of playfulness accrues incidentally that his vitality is returning. He has not been nearly so tempted to nap, particularly in the afternoon. Now, we hope to do more along those lines, for even though I am doing my own book, I will help Ruber on his, and he could use a few projection episodes during sessions. It was also a way of getting him out of the way the other evening, so that I could work in peace on my book. It was rather a displacement of consciousness rather than a projection, for his consciousness was in a trance state, and then displaced to the bookcase area. John noted, about 6 feet away. They said, "Now, the last time I told you that a period of excellent improvement could be expected in his condition, it followed. Do you remember?" Ralph said, "Yes." They said, "I tell you this now again, except that the improvement should be far more startling. The time and the season and Ruber's psychological state are right. This is why I have taken the time from my book for this session, and the other recent ones for him. Therefore, see that my suggestions are followed. The hints on spontaneity that have been given this evening, again, may sound simple, but they are highly significant, and Ruber will know when, subjectively, he is being spontaneous. At one time, he could not tell the difference. He is to forget thinking of the dream book as something he must do. It will come from him naturally. He has been using the idea of the contract as a club, and this is why he has been so sensitive about it. The contract is his as naturally as the book is his. The next time we try a displacement of consciousness, we will put him on the other side of the bookcase." Rob noted, as says, Jane pointed. They said, "Now, do you have questions about your painting, or of your own?" Rob said, "No, I guess not." Rob noted, smiling. They said, "Some other night we must have a session that is recorded. Ruber can transcribe the tape. And you and I," Rob noted, voice abruptly louder. They said, "We'll have a pleasant conversation." Rob said, "That would be good." Rob noted, Seth's voice again stepped up in volume, louder than I had heard it for some time. They said, "Now, the energy that I am using now is also being made available for Ruber." Rob noted, louder. They said, "And now, he is no longer afraid to use it joyfully. And it will straighten out his arms and release some of the crooked ideas that he has in that head of his. Consider the whole paragraph underlined." Rob noted, Seth's voice still boomed out powerfully. They said, "You can also use some of it. It is yours for the asking. Now, I wish you a fond good evening, and this has not been a recording." Rob noted, still loud and strong. They said, "I intend to speak with our beloved and sometimes knuckle-headed friend this evening in a dream state, and make some points that I have not made this evening. It will serve him well, and we will not need session time to do it." Rob noted, loud. They said, And I never was a demon.